Hi all, it's Rose again. I'm here to share with you another piece of my crap collection through years of collecting junk. I have several boxes of journals. So yes, I have other people's journals. They're actually kind of exciting to read sometimes, but sometimes they're terribly boring to read. But sometimes you get some pretty good gems. This one in particular is a little leather journal. It's called a diary, and it is from, let's open it up and show you, calendar 1893. So in this journal, it's the year's journal, diary, whatever. You write down what you're going to do. This one in particular has a stained foredge, which is kind of nice. It has a little pocket. It's pretty cheap. Like the leather material is super thin. It was pounded out, and so I don't think that this was a particularly expensive journal back then. But it was also owned by a lawyer. The only reason why I know that is because the only interesting thing in this journal is he has some dates written down, where court dates in here. Let's find one for you. Here, Green versus Russo at 9 a.m. So, that's it. And there's only like 5 or 10 entries like that written in pencil. There's nothing else in this journal. So it's quite boring. So journals back then and journals today are much different. So back then, from what I can see, there aren't too many people writing like Shelley and Byron, like writing what they did that day, or long entries of landscape and people and stuff like that. They're not doing that. Mostly what they did in journals, besides for use them as calendars like this one, in a day, like right there, they would write what they kind of did that day. So went to school, bought some milk, uh, went to the store, saw Papa. I mean, that is the basics, because they had that much room, sometimes even less. So sometimes there's only like a whole week is in here. So they would have like just 2 or 3 lines to write on, and they would write basically what they did. They talk about the weather a lot and stuff, weather beautiful, weather warm, weather snowing, hailing, whatever it was. So that's that. So journals back then aren't like you have journals today where you're getting this stream of consciousness, talking. Like a one day of my journal is this entire book. Seriously. So the interesting thing in this journal, though, that I wanted to cover was in the beginning of this, journals are still like this, where they have this sort of arbitrary information in the beginning. And like they'll have horoscope, or what time the moon is rising, and or what time the sun sets, every day, or something like that. Help in case of accidents. So that's the part I really found to be pretty funny, and I wanted to go over it with you because it's actually quite a gem. The What we saw, or what we see as being the modern medicine that we know and love and are very attached to, really goes out of date very quickly, as you'll see in this little, medical advice given in 1893. So the first one is, it has 1, 2, 3, 6 different accidents. What's due for 6 different, I guess, major, like these were the pretty common accidents in 1893. First one is drowning. It says 1, loosen clothing if any. So maybe people were swimming naked back then, I hope. Number 2, empty the lungs of water by laying body on its stomach and lifting it by the middle so the head hangs down. So what you're going to do is put the body on its stomach. You're going to lift it from the stomach area, from the midsection, and then you are going to jerk the body a few times. So you're going to do like the Heimlich maneuver to the stomach to get the water out of the lungs. The second thing is you're going to pull the tongue forward using a handkerchief or pin with string if necessary. So you're going to tie, and I don't know where this comes in, like why they think pulling the tongue out is going to help with water in the lungs. So what you're either going to tie a handkerchief around the tongue and pull it out, or you're going to sew or thread a piece of string through the tongue. And everyone had sewing kits on them back then. There's like ladies on the beach or whatever carrying around their little sewing kits. So I would imagine that a needle and thread is a pretty common thing to have around. So you're going to pull this thread through. You're going to pull on the tongue without tearing it, I guess, and do this other stuff, which is number 4. You're going to imitate the motion of respiration by alternately compressing and expanding the lower ribs about 20 times a minute, alternately raising and lowering the arms from the sides up above the head will stimulate the action of the lungs. So you're going to push on the lower lungs at the same time, lay the person down and lift their arms like this, and that is going to cause them to breathe, right? That's what they think here, while you're holding the tongue out of the mouth. So you're going to need a couple people here. You're going to apply warmth and friction to extremities. So I'm thinking they think that there's hypothermia and the person needs warmth, I guess. So by holding the tongue forward and closing the nostrils and pressing the Adam's apple. So you're going to hold the tongue out, close the nostrils, and push on the Adam's apple. Now you're going to give CPR. I'm not sure how you're going to do mouth to mouth with the tongue hanging out, like holding the tongue out, but I guess that's what you do. This seems like a lot here. You push the Adam's apple back so as close to the entrance of stomach. I don't know what that means. Direct inflation may be tried. Take a deep breath and breathe it in forcibly into the mouth of the patient. Compress the chest to expel the air and repeat the thing. So you're going to push, they have the idea going here, but it's really quite primitive. I did look up the history of CPR, and even though there was CPR and these types of life-saving experiments being done all over the world, and it was being recorded by certain doctors, it really wasn't a thing. Like, everybody didn't know how to do chest compressions and mouth to mouth until somewhere in the mid 1900s. So, but as we know, the science keeps changing. So now the mouth to mouth has been kind of pushed aside, and now there's a thing called hands only CPR, and that is just doing chest compressions, which is kind of interesting the way that this evolves. And I wouldn't doubt it if 100 years from now we figure out something even quicker. So then it says here, which I think is pretty interesting, don't give up. People have been saved after hours of patient vigorous effort. And then, so I guess after, hours of doing this, you can expect your patient to come alive and be not completely a vegetable. So I also think that after doing all this stuff to your patient, that it's quite possible that they weren't, if it was hours later, that they were not really dead or whatever. And also that rather than being traumatized by the drowning itself, like almost dying, I would imagine that they would be very traumatized by their friends sticking a needle through their tongue, doing all kinds of crazy shit to them while they were knocked out, and they're going to have lifelong PTSD as a result of that. Then it says, when breathing begins, get your patient into a warm bed, give warm drinks or spirits in teaspoonfuls, fresh air and quiet. So yeah, booze them up and make them happy. The next one is burns and scalds. So in case you get burns or scald, which I'm sure it happened all the time back then, you cover the burn or the scald with cooking soda and then lay a wet rag over it. Use the whites of eggs and olive oil. So olive and linseed oil, plain or mixed with chalk or whiting. So you basically put olive oil on the wound, on the burn, which is, we all know, is no. So if you put oil on a burn, it actually makes the burn worse. Don't do that, please. Nobody put oil on burns. I still hear it. I still hear people saying to put oil on burns. Don't do it. Cold water. In cold water for as long, like a half an hour if necessary. So the next one is lightning. So if your friend or your wife gets hit by lightning, you're gonna quickly dash cold water over the person. That's it. Just get your hose out, spray them down. Sunstroke, you're going to loosen the clothing and get the patient into the shade and then apply ice cold water to the head. Mad dog or snake bite, you're going to tie a cord above the wound, suck the wound, and cauterize with caustic or white hot iron at once, or cut out adjoining parts with sharp knife. So you're going to tie off the wound and you're going to get yourself a hot iron off the stove and burn the freaking shit out of that person wherever they got bit. And if you don't have that handy, you're going to get yourself a knife out and cut out the adjoining parts. And then your friend or loved one is also going to have serious PTSD from that. No wonder people are so messed up, man. They're all walking around like traumatized from the 1800s. The next one is venomous insect stings. So you apply weak ammonia, oil, salt, water, or iodine. I don't know if that's 100%, what that science is like behind that. Ammonia sounds like that might work on some venomous, bites, maybe mild ones. The next one is fainting. Place flat on your back, flat on back, allow fresh air, and sprinkle with water. So a lot of accidents in 1893 can just be cured by shade and some fresh cold water. Tests of death. Tests of death. So this one I found very funny. You're going to hold a mirror to the mouth, and if living, moisture will gather on the mirror. So, when you breathe against a window or whatever, it gets humid. So yeah, I guess that would definitely, say if a person was alive or dead. But the second thing is here's what you do. You're going to push a pin into their flesh. If dead, the hole will remain. And if alive, the hole will close up. So I don't know. That seems very inaccurate to me. I don't think that sticking a pin in somebody's flesh and checking to see if the hole stays open or closed is a good way to tell if they're dead. I would definitely see a physician. I would wait to bury them, maybe a couple days, or maybe go around to the drowning techniques and give them some CPR or something. I'm not sure. The next one is cinders in the eye. So this is kind of funny because I guess back then, there's like tons of stuff burning. Like you got fires and, to keep the house warm, you got wood burning stoves, whatever. So I'm sure cinders get in the eyes a lot. And that one's pretty basic. It's basically rinse the eye out with water. But it says while you're rinsing the eye out with water that you need to be putting water in one eye and rubbing the other eye at the same time. So I think they think that creates, and it probably does create like tearing in the other eye. So it creates the eyes to tear. So which would, wash the stuff out. So that's it. I would suggest if any of these things happen to you that you call 911 and don't listen to the advice from 1893. I hope everybody has a good day, and I am really curious to see what things that we do now that are in the medical books that we're going to look at and go, oh my God, this is insane. I bet you any money that most of our medical treatments today are going to seem super, super primitive in 100 years. Let me know what you think. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great day. Bye.